Oh hey, welcome back to my channel. As you can see, I'm right in front of the Starcourt Mall. It's pretty amazing. There's tons of stores in here. You gotta be here to actually see it. I was at Chess King, I was also at KB Toys, and I was also at the fitness center. I mean, there's tons of things to do in the Starcourt Mall. It's freaking amazing. In today's video, I'm going to be reviewing the new season of Stranger Things, which premiered on July 4th. Before you watch this video, I have to let you guys know that my review is full of spoilers, so if you haven't watched Season 3 of Stranger Things, please go and watch it because I'm going to be talking about some major spoilers. One of the reasons why I love Stranger Things is because it has 80s nostalgia in it, and this season definitely didn't disappoint. There was a lot of really bright colors from 1985, a lot of 80s aesthetics. I love the outfits and the makeup and basically how bright it was with all the neon colors, and I absolutely love the Starcourt Mall. It definitely was very versatile. It had a lot of wonderful stores that were there back in the 80s. The antagonist of this season is, of course, the Mind Flayer, who comes back for more, but this time he has a new host, and surprisingly, it is Billy, the guy from Season 2, which I obviously didn't like his character very much. He was definitely a huge jerk. And this time, he is actually the lifeguard of the pool, of the local community pool that's there. Things were cooking up between him and Mrs. Wheeler because Mrs. Wheeler kind of had a crush on him in Season 2. Mrs. Wheeler actually attempts to cheat on her husband with Billy, which unfortunately doesn't go well because Billy gets kidnapped by the Mind Flayer. He becomes the Mind Flayer's host, and Billy starts acting weird, and he starts collecting all of the people in Hawkins, and they start turning into these weird zombies. Will, who sort of had a Harry Potter moment while he was watching a film in the movie theater at the Starcourt Mall, he felt that the Mind Flayer is actually back for more. And Will was let off this season, by the way. He wasn't kidnapped, so at least that was different. What I liked about Billy being the main antagonist of this season was that we started to learn more about his backstory and the fact that he had an abusive father, which explains why he's such a jerk to everyone and why he's a bad boy. To be honest, I didn't like Billy's character in Season 2. I definitely thought he was a huge jerk, but in this season, since they explained his backstory a little bit more, I guess he became more likable to me. A lot of things are changing for the kids as well. They're not actually kids anymore, they're teenagers. Eleven and Mike are officially a couple, and you see them canoodling with each other. I thought it was very cute to see, but also at the same time it was kind of annoying because I wanted them to focus more on other things other than Eleven and Mike's relationship. Hopper doesn't approve of this at all because he's very overprotective of Eleven, and he decides to punish Mike. Hopper doesn't let Mike date Eleven, and he doesn't let her see her for a while, and Mike has to lie to Eleven. His grandma is sick, and that's the reason why he's not going to see Eleven anymore, which makes her pretty upset. This makes Hopper happy. Hopper has no expertise on how to raise a teenager and how to set rules and regulations, so he asks Joyce for help. Hopper doesn't listen because he loses his temper, and instead he decides to do it in a more aggressive fashion. Eleven gets mad at Mike because they're not going to see each other anymore, so she decides to befriend Max, who last season, of course, she was jealous of Max looking at Mike, and now they're actually best friends. They go to the Starcourt Mall. It was funny because Max said, "There's more to life than stupid boys anyway, so let's go and have a shopping spree. I dump your ass." Dustin, who's my favorite character of Stranger Things, he's my second favorite character, he actually has come back from science camp, and he has met this girl named Susie. And a lot of people in the show doubt him, even Steve. They say that Susie doesn't exist and she's just a figment of his imagination. At the end of the season, we figure out that Susie is actually a real person and she lives in Utah. And I thought that scene where they began to sing the never-ending story was really cute as well. They're both very talented. So let's talk about what's up at the Starcourt Mall in Scoops Ahoy. So Scoops Ahoy is an ice cream shop where Steve works since he's out of high school now, and he's paired up with this new character who's played by Maya Hawke, and her name is Robin. In the first couple of episodes, I thought she was kind of, I don't know, unlikable to me. I just didn't like her at first because she was always telling Steve that he sucked. Like, she had this like tally mark and she was saying, "You suck," and whatever. She was treating him really badly. I think afterwards in the other episodes she starts to open up to Steve. Strangely enough, she had a crush on Steve back in high school. And then they both get drugged by these Russians because they go all the way downstairs in Starcourt Mall. They find out that Russians are conspiring against the town or something, and they're creating these experiments. They find out their headquarters, and they both get drugged by the Russians, and they start acting all high and shit, and it was really funny. And Robin makes a confession, and she admits to Steve that despite the fact that she had a crush on him, she had a much bigger crush on a girl that Steve knew. And it turns out that she's a lesbian, which I thought was kind of surprising because I thought they were going for the Steve and Robin thing, that they were going to be a couple or something at the end of the season, but that didn't really happen. So I'm kind of glad that they decided to become friends. Steve has also become one of my favorite characters in Stranger Things, because I know in season 1 he was a bit of a jerk. Season 2 he redeemed himself and he became lovable. Now he's working at Starcourt Mall in Scoops Ahoy, and he realizes that since he's out of high school, he's out of the high school hierarchy, that popularity really isn't, it's not applicable anymore in the real world. Now that he's working and he's serving customers. Then in high school, where he was the cool guy, now he's actually in the real world, and it's very different. Nancy and Jonathan have also gotten out of high school, and they're being put into this new environment, which is the real world. Now they're working for the local newspaper. Nancy gets treated badly by the male employees at the newspaper because they are very sexist towards her, and they say that she cannot ever become a journalist and she can never become big. Despite this, Nancy and Jonathan pose as journalists, and they go around town to cover the story about people eating fertilizers. This old lady that complains that one of her pets is eating fertilizer, and then she starts to eat fertilizer, and then things start to get really weird around town. The Mind Flayer is out there turning these people into basically zombies. The disgusting thing about these people is that they turn into this kind of goo, and all that goo becomes this huge monster, and it was really disgusting, and I'm glad that they grossed me out with the special effects. That was really scary. Joyce and Hopper go around town also finding out what's going around the town because things start to get really weird. They go around town and they meet up with this Russian scientist named Alexei, who definitely was a very lovable character. He was kind of annoying at first because he was always asking for Slurpees, but afterwards he became really lovable, and they had Murray there to translate everything that he said. So then when they went to the fair on July 4th, he actually won Woody the Woodpecker, and he was amazed at our system, because Americans have the capitalist system. And his tragic fate in the last episode of the season was definitely very sad, because I wasn't seeing that coming. What I didn't like about this season was that there's this guy, this Russian guy, who kind of looked like Arnold Schwarzenegger. He was like the Russian Arnold Schwarzenegger. I found his character rather pointless because there was no point in putting him there. Another character I didn't like this season was the corrupt mayor of Hawkins. Things in Hawkins are changing for the worse because all the small businesses are being replaced by the Starcourt Mall, so they're all going out of business because of this freaking corrupt mayor who's played by Cary Elwes. You might know him from The Princess Bride, and he did a really good job playing the villain here. And this corrupt mayor is a double crosser because he is conspiring with the Russians who are creating all of these experiments, and he betrayed his own town. He basically sold his own town to the Russians, and that was pretty shitty. But then again, what do you expect from a corrupt mayor? The last episode of this season, which was called The Battle of Starcourt, was definitely a very sad episode. Even before this season came out, there was a lot of speculation on Reddit that Mike, who was played by Finn Wolfhard, was going to be the character that was going to leave Stranger Things. And it turns out that it wasn't. It was actually Billy and Hopper. And I was surprised by this because I never thought Billy was going to die. And I also thought that Hopper wasn't going to die because he's basically a fan favorite, and he's like one of the main characters in Stranger Things. Poor Billy died sacrificing himself in order to end the Mind Flayer's regime. And Hopper also passed away when they were in the lab and they were stopping the Russians from... They were gonna turn off the machine that was opening a hole. The hole that 11 closed in season 2, the Russians were trying to open it. So they destroyed the machine. We weren't sure if Hopper died along with the other scientists who were vaporized. It was completely uncertain. And in the post-credit scene of this season, there's a scene where there are Russian officials and they say that there's an American in one of their prison cells. So it's speculated that it might be Hopper, so he probably isn't dead. But then again, there could be many people who could be the American. So we can't say that it's Hopper. I thought Hopper's death was surprising, but at the same time, I thought it was definitely a great way to end this season because things are changing. And I felt that the theme of this season was change, especially now that the kids are growing up and they're teenagers and things in town are also changing as well. I thought it would be cliche to see the same thing over and over again, like in seasons 1 and 2 where Hopper always saved the day and he always saved everybody from the Mind Flayer and the Demogorgons, and it's overdone. I get it. And maybe that's why they decided to take this season in a new direction. Maybe this time Hopper isn't going to save the day anymore, because now there's probably going to be new antagonists later on. Probably in season 4, I speculate that the Russian officials are going to get much stronger, and maybe there might be a new threat that's a whole lot more powerful than the Mind Flayer in this season. So I feel that things are definitely going to change as they are now approaching the late 80s. The letter that Hopper wrote to Eleven at the end of the episode was very, very heartbreaking. It was very, very sad. You know, I really liked what he wrote to her because he really did care about her. Even as an adoptive father, he really did care about her, and it scared him a lot about the things that were happening in her life now that she's a teenager and she's going to experience a lot of changes in her life. Another theme that I noticed in this season is the loss of innocence. The kids are growing up, they're becoming teenagers, and they're no longer interested in playing Dungeons and Dragons like they did in the first 2 seasons. And this starts to get to Will. He's constantly reminding the boys to play Dungeons and Dragons with him and to do the things that they used to do when they were kids, but they're not interested in that anymore. And Will gets angry and he decides to destroy Castle Byers because he's realized that he's growing up and everybody around him is growing up. And it's time for a change. I'm also glad that Mrs. Wheeler didn't cheat with Billy and they didn't have their affair or whatever, because I thought it was going to be cliche as well. I'm kind of glad that that never happened, and instead Mrs. Wheeler decided to be with her family, which is the most important thing. And I also like what she said to Nancy when she was consoling her about the sexist people in the newspaper. She said that the real world is often uncertain and you never know what's going to happen. You're being put into this environment and you don't know if you're going to succeed or you're going to fail. But she encourages Nancy to keep on trying and not to give up. You have to fight for what you want in life. And I thought that was a great message that she told Nancy. I'm all about that 80s nostalgia, and I really love what they did in this season by giving references to 80s films like Day of the Dead, which is a George A. Romero film, which is one of my favorite zombie films. I noticed that they also used a part of the score from the Day of the Dead when Steve and Robin are talking about high school. They also made a reference to Back to the Future. I thought that was cool too, because Back to the Future is one of the best trilogies of the 80s. And I thought this season was very well done. I give it an 8 out of 10. There were some elements that I didn't like that Arnold Schwarzenegger Russian guy and the asshole mayor, and some of the deaths in this season were shocking. Stranger Things will always be a great show. It has great story development, it has great production value. You know, they stay true to the theme of the 80s. I can't wait to see what they come up with in season 4 now that they are approaching 1986. And there are a lot of great things that happened in 1986. They might cover Chernobyl, who knows. If you guys haven't watched the HBO series Chernobyl, I highly recommend it. It aired this year and it's a very good miniseries. I hope you guys enjoyed this totally rad review of Stranger Things 3. Please give me a thumbs up if you liked it. Also, please comment down below and tell me your opinion on this season of Stranger Things. And as always, hit that subscribe button if you want to see more videos from me, and feel free to follow me on my Instagram and on my Patreon page. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys later because I still have to do some shopping around here at the Starcourt Mall. Bye!